Hello, everyone. As many of you probably already know, I have a podcast, a couple of podcasts actually, but one of them is called the Overcoming Chronic Illness Podcast. And my last two guests were just really great interviews. I've posted them both on podcast platforms and on my YouTube channel as well. And I just wanted to quickly talk about those podcasts and just let you know about them in case you're interested in checking them out if you haven't seen them already. The most recent interview was with this naturopathic doctor from California, I think. Oregon, named Dr. Greg Nye. And Dr. Nye, I met him or I saw him lecture at a conference for the first time, maybe, I don't know, 10-ish years ago. And I was just blown away. I was like, this guy is, really, really, really smart. And then maybe 3 or 4 years later, I saw him lecture at another conference, and we had a chance to chat with him a little bit. I was like, wow, this is one of the smartest docs that I've ever met. He's just like clearly a genius in my opinion. And and so I've just every opportunity that I've had to learn from Dr. Nye, I have taken. Although he doesn't really have a whole lot of continuing education materials and things like that out there, but if I see he's lecturing or interviews or that he's folks interviewing him or whatnot, or articles that he's written, I always gobble up the material that he puts out there. He's a just really, really smart cookie. One of the things that really inspired me with our chat was I've been on a sulfur kick for the last little while. I'm going to post some specific videos about sulfur, but coming up in the not too distant future. But I was asking him about his experience with sulfur because he's one of the few clinicians that I've ever heard lecture about sulfur over time. And I've been seeing some really great results in practice with folks using a high dose sulfur replenishment protocol. And so I was asking him about his, experience with this. And one of the many reasons I enjoyed my conversation with Dr. Nye is that he was just all over the place, because he knows so many things, and so many things, everything really is interconnected in medicine and physiology. And so just kind of going from like one topic to the next to the next. And he's like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm all over the place here. Or, oh my gosh, I'm, giving you these really long-winded answers, and I was just soaking it up because I just love seeing how his brain works, and I really love making connecting the dots as well. So anyways, couldn't have enjoyed the interview more. But one of the things he was talking about with sulfur that I was not aware of is making the link between the importance of sulfur, or specifically sulfated things called glycosaminoglycans in the body that are involved with creating structured water. I'm not sure. I had one interview with so I did have an interview with someone. She goes by the handle of Carrie B Wellness. She talks a lot about the importance of vitamin D and sun exposure and various things. And I believe she was talking about the importance of natural light exposure and that leading to more structured water synthesis. What I couldn't remember is if any of my other guests have talked about structured water. I don't know if they have. I think she was maybe the only one. But structured water seems to be something that's very important for our good health. And it was just really interesting to me that sulfur and sulfated substances in the body are important for structured water synthesis. So that's something I was not aware of, and something I'm going to have to learn more about to really geek out on the details with that. But so that was one very interesting take home from the Dr. Nye interview. And then another thing that really inspired me was I was asking him about, I don't remember what I asked him about, but anyways, we ended up getting onto the topic of autonomic nervous system regulation. And I've been, for the last year or so, I went down the rabbit hole of quantitative EEGs, brain mapping, and subsequent neurofeedback to help regulate the nervous system, because many of my guests on the Overcoming Chronic Illness podcast have talked about how crucially important autonomic nervous system regulation is to help their patients get all the way well. And that is something that I've definitely been encountering in the last year. Patients where otherwise, we just done everything right as best I could tell, working on their gut, getting rid of the heavy metals, getting their methylation cycles on track, getting rid of chronic infections if they were there in the first place, getting rid of mold if it was there in the first place, supporting their mitochondria, doing all these things and then some. And folks who had improved significantly, but were still not quite there. I just talked to a patient earlier today. She's like, I'm so much better than I was before. She's barely taking any supplements now, doing so much better. But she's still has to be careful with the amount of energy that she spends. She's, maybe 70% of the way there, but she's just not quite there. Oh, excuse me. I don't edit my videos, as you can tell, but I'm gonna muscle through this one. But please excuse the weird smalling in the wrong way there. And so, she's a great case in point of we just really need to work on her autonomic nervous system. And so neurofeedback, excuse me, I'm going to pause the video for 1 second. Sorry, folks. This is how you know my videos are the real deal. If I don't edit them, they're not polished behind the scenes. This is true Dr. Raid. With this patient, she was a great case in point of where we had gotten her to a significant place of health improvement, or a place of significant health improvement, but she still isn't quite there. And so we talked about it. She's like, yeah, we both agree we need to work on nervous system regulation with her. So very, very important. So I asked Dr. Nye, or it came up in conversation somehow, like, what does he do for autonomic nervous system regulation? And he works with a nutritionist who actually planning to see if maybe she would be willing to chat with me on the podcast as well. But she works with something called the Safe and Sound Protocol, which is the brainchild of Dr. Stephen Porges, who developed polyvagal theory. And so anyways, I've gone down that rabbit hole since this interview. I'm like, well, Dr. Nye is one of the smartest docs that I know, and this is what he has found to be very helpful for getting nervous system regulation on track. So something I've kind of gone down that rabbit hole, and something I'm going to start offering in my practice in the very near future. So very thankful to Dr. Nye for his time, and for pushing me in that, or pointing me in that direction, because I'd heard of the SSP, the Safe and Sound Protocol, but just never really learned a whole lot about it, and didn't really have any patients who have worked with it. But now that's something that I'm going to start working with, because I think it's really fascinating. So I will post some videos about that as well, but there's also other resources online about that if you're interested in learning more. The other guest that I had on just before Dr. Nye was Dr. Chris Doherty. Dr. Doherty is a naturopathic doctor from Ontario, so fellow Canadian, and also one of the smartest docs that I have talked to over time. She is a lot of tangential thoughts with that interview as well. You'll maybe notice a little bit of overlap there with her and her interview and the Dr. Nye interview, kind of like all over the place. But again, I just was soaking it up because I just love seeing how her brain was going in this and that direction, connecting to some dots and whatnot as well. We mostly were talking about POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, that wound up kind of dominating the conversation, but we did talk about some other other conditions as well, and a lot of the physiology that we were talking about with respect to POTS were things that relate to other areas too. So if you're thinking like, I don't have POTS, this isn't something that applies to me, still worth a listen, I think, because we did talk about other things that are relevant to other topics related to complex chronic health issues. So with Dr. Doherty, it was just kind of happy coincidence that about a week later or so after we had our interview, we were both at the same conference, which I, in part, one of the main reasons I went to the conference was actually to see her speak. Her sister, who I'll be interviewing soon, Dr. Sonia Doherty, was speaking as well, and they're just two really brilliant docs, and learned a lot from them over time, and excited to learn more over time. But we ran into each other, and we were talking about sulfur as well, methylation cycle related things, high-dose vitamin B12 injections and how they can apply to so many folks, and various other topics. So anyways, it was a very educational experience, and really glad that I got to connect with her and her sister, and some other smart docs out there too shortly after. So anyways, just a couple of episodes to consider checking out if you are interested in any of those topics. If you do check out the episodes, please consider posting a comment just to let me know what you thought of the episode, or post on some other video just saying, hey, I really like this episode or whatnot. Or if you have suggestions for other guests for me to have on that podcast, I would welcome those suggestions. So I'm going to leave it there because I've coughed and sputtered and misspoken enough here. So I'll leave the video there for now. As per usual, if anybody has any comments or questions on this video or anything else, just post in the comment section below, and I will do my best to get to any questions as soon as I can.